At 9:47 in the morning on my second wedding anniversary, my husband texted me that he was stuck at work while he was sitting 10 feet away from me, kissing another woman in my own restaurant. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just stood there, staring through the glass partition of my office like my body had forgotten how to exist. For a second, I actually thought I was mistaken, that maybe grief or stress, or the quiet distance that had been growing between us for months had finally caught up with me and twisted my mind into something cruel. But no, I knew that jacket. Navy blue, soft wool, the one I bought Daniel last Christmas because he said it made him look respectable. I knew the way he leaned back in his chair, shoulders slightly hunched when he was relaxed, and I knew that hand, the way he lifted it to cup her face as he kissed her. He used to touch me like that. My phone slipped out of my hand and hit the wooden desk with a sharp crack that sounded louder than it should have. The screen was still glowing. "Happy anniversary, babe. I'm stuck at work. Can't wait to celebrate tonight. Love you." I remember thinking, almost calmly, how strange it was that a lie could look so gentle when written out in black and white. The dining room smelled like fresh bread and citrus cleaner, the kind of clean that makes people feel safe. Carmen was setting tables near the window, humming something under her breath, completely unaware that my marriage had just ended 30 feet away from her. And there he was, my husband, kissing a woman with long red hair like they had done it 100 times before. She stood up slowly, walked around the table, and wrapped her arms around his neck from behind. Not shy, not hesitant, comfortable, familiar. Like she belonged there, like she had always belonged there. When she tilted her head, I saw her face, and my heart didn't just break, it dropped, because I knew her. Of all the women in the world, it had to be her. I don't remember deciding to move. 1 second, I was frozen. The next, my hand was already reaching for the door handle. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, that sharp, blinding kind of anger that makes you forget consequences, forget dignity, forget everything except the need to make it stop. I was going to walk out there. I was going to stand in front of them, in front of every customer, and I was going to ask one simple question: how long? But before I could open the door, a hand wrapped around my shoulder, firm, steady, not aggressive, but impossible to ignore. "Don't," a voice said quietly behind me. "Not like this." I turned, breath shaking, vision blurred with tears I didn't even realize had started falling. And when I saw who it was, my mind couldn't quite catch up. "Laura," I whispered. Detective Laura Hayes looked at me the way people look at something fragile that's already halfway broken. Her eyes flicked past me toward the dining room, then back to my face. "I saw them come in," she said softly, "about 20 minutes ago." My chest tightened. "Then you know." She nodded once. "Yeah, I know." I swallowed hard, forcing my eyes back toward the glass, toward them, toward him. He told me he was at work. Laura didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped a little closer, lowering her voice. "If you walk out there right now," she said, "you're going to get lies, denials, maybe even tears, but you're not going to get the truth." I shook my head, my fingers tightening around the door handle. "I don't care. I need to hear him say it." "No," she said, sharper this time. "You think you do. But what you really need is proof." That word landed differently. Proof. Not closure. Not answers. Not even justice. Something colder. Something that lasts. I looked back through the glass again, just in time to see Daniel reach for his wallet, laughing at something she said, like nothing in the world was wrong, like I didn't exist. And that's when something inside me shifted. Not broken, not shattered, just rearranged. "Okay?" I whispered. Laura's grip on my shoulder tightened slightly. "Okay what?" I wiped my face with the back of my hand, forcing my voice steady. "Okay, I won't go out there." She studied me for a second, like she was trying to decide if I meant it. "But if I don't confront him," I added quietly, "then I need to know what he's really doing." Laura nodded slowly. "Then go home," she said, "and don't let him know you know anything." I glanced back one last time. He was still smiling. Still hers. Still mine. For now. And that was the moment I realized something I wish I had understood much sooner. The kiss wasn't the betrayal. It was just the beginning of something far worse. I don't remember the drive home, only that my hands were shaking so badly on the steering wheel that I had to grip it tighter than I ever had in my life. Like if I let go for even a second, everything would spin out of control. By the time I pulled into our driveway, Daniel's car was already there. Of course it was. He had enough time to kiss another woman in my restaurant and still beat me home. The house looked exactly the same. That was the part that almost broke me more than anything. The white curtains I picked out last spring, the little herb pots on the kitchen windowsill, the framed wedding photo hanging slightly crooked above the couch because we never got around to fixing it. Everything looked normal. Nothing was normal. I stepped inside and closed the door quietly behind me, like I was the one sneaking into a place I didn't belong. The silence hit me first. Thick. Heavy. The kind of silence that makes you hear your own breathing. Laura's voice echoed in my head. "Don't let him know you know anything." I repeated it to myself like a prayer. Don't react. Don't break. Don't tip him off. I walked straight past the living room and down the hallway toward his office. He always kept it half closed, like there was nothing inside worth seeing. Just work stuff, he used to say. Contracts, emails, boring business things I wouldn't understand. I believed him. God, I believed everything. The door creaked softly when I pushed it open. His desk was exactly how he always left it. Neat, controlled, organized in a way that made you trust him without even realizing it. But there were papers spread across the surface now, not stacked, not filed, just there. That was the first sign. Daniel never left things messy. I stepped closer, my heart starting to pound again, but this time it wasn't panic. It was something sharper, colder. The top document had my name on it. Emma Carter. I stared at it for a second before my brain caught up with my eyes. Petition for dissolution of marriage. I didn't sit down. I didn't breathe. I just stood there reading my own divorce papers like they belonged to someone else. His name was already signed at the bottom. Clean, confident, practiced. My line was empty, waiting. I flipped the page, and then another. And then I saw the number. $2.8 million. A valuation report for my restaurant, my grandmother's restaurant. The place I had spent years building, sacrificing for, pouring everything I had into. I felt something tighten in my chest. This wasn't just about leaving me. He was planning to take everything. My fingers moved faster now, flipping through the stack, scanning, searching. And that's when I found the emails. Printed, highlighted, like he wanted them ready. Daniel, we're prepared to move forward as soon as you secure power of attorney. The $2.8 million offer stands. Make sure she's willing to sign before the deadline. I read that line twice, then a third time. Make sure she's willing. My stomach turned. Another page. Update timeline extended. Ensure she is weak enough to sign. Weak enough. I didn't realize I had started shaking again until the paper rattled in my hands. My mind jumped, searching for meaning, for explanation, for anything that made this less deliberate, less planned, less cruel. And then I saw the next email. The red-haired contact will assist with the emotional angle. She's on board. I stopped breathing. Red-haired. My vision narrowed, the edges going dark as something inside me connected the pieces faster than I wanted it to. No. I flipped to the last page in the stack, a printed screenshot of text messages. The contact name at the top hit me like a physical blow. Olivia, my sister. My legs almost gave out and I had to grab the edge of the desk to steady myself. The room felt like it tilted sideways, like gravity itself had shifted and I was the only one who noticed. I stared at the messages, at the timestamps, at the words that shouldn't exist. And in that moment, standing alone in that quiet house, I realized something I don't think I was ready to understand. Daniel hadn't just betrayed me. He had built a plan, and my own sister was part of it. I don't know how long I stood there staring at Olivia's name on that screen, only that the longer I looked, the more it stopped feeling like a mistake and started feeling like the truth I had been too blind to see. I told myself there had to be another Olivia. There had to be. It's not an uncommon name. People share names all the time. That's what I told myself as I picked up the page with both hands, as if holding it tighter might somehow change what it said. But then I saw the number. Her number. The same one I had saved in my phone for years. The one I used to call when I missed her, when I needed her, when I just wanted to hear a familiar voice. My little sister. The one I helped raise after our mother passed. The one who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms and cling to me like I could keep the world from hurting her. That Olivia. My chest tightened so hard it felt like something inside me was cracking open. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like something important finally giving way. I sank into Daniel's chair without meaning to, the paper still in my hands, my eyes moving over the messages again and again like maybe if I read them enough times, they would rearrange themselves into something less devastating. They didn't. The tone was intimate, casual, familiar in a way that made my stomach turn. This wasn't new. This wasn't some impulsive mistake. This was routine, planned, comfortable. I pressed my fingers against my temple, trying to steady the rush of thoughts flooding my head. How long? That question came back, louder now. How long had they been doing this behind my back? How many times had she sat at my table, eaten my food, smiled at me, knowing? I forced myself to keep reading, because Laura was right. Emotion wouldn't give me answers. Evidence would. My eyes moved to the date stamps. They went back months, then further, then over a year, 18 months, a year and a half. I stopped. 18 months of lies, of dinners, of holidays, of birthdays, of moments I thought were real. I thought about last Christmas, the three of us sitting in my living room, laughing, opening gifts. Olivia hugging me, telling me how lucky I was to have Daniel. I felt something cold settle deep in my chest. Not pain, not anymore. Something sharper, something that didn't shake. I dropped the paper onto the desk and reached for Daniel's laptop. It was sitting right there, closed, like it had nothing to hide, like it trusted me not to look. I hesitated for a second, not because I felt guilty, because I knew once I opened it there was no going back. I lifted the lid. The screen lit up immediately, the password prompt appearing like a quiet challenge. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then moved almost automatically. Rosa 2022, our wedding year. He never changed it. The screen unlocked. Of course it did. I let out a slow breath, something almost bitter rising in my throat. Trust, habit, arrogance. I wasn't sure which one had made him so careless. Maybe all three. His desktop was clean, too clean. A few folders labeled work, taxes, personal. Nothing suspicious at first glance. But I wasn't looking at it the way a wife would. I was looking at it the way someone building a case would. I clicked on his email. The inbox loaded slowly, and for a second, everything looked normal. Subject lines, newsletters, receipts, routine messages. Then I saw it. Deal finalization timeline. My pulse spiked. I clicked. The thread opened, stretching back months, each message stacking on top of the last, like layers of something rotten. We're ready to close once you secure a power of attorney. Make sure she signs voluntarily. We don't want legal complications. Voluntarily. I almost laughed. Another message. Timeline extended. Ensure she is weak enough before the deadline. Weak enough. That phrase again. It echoed in my head now, louder, heavier. My stomach twisted, something uneasy beginning to surface beneath the anger. Weak enough. Why would I need to be weak? I scrolled faster. Another email confirmed your contact. She will keep Emma distracted and emotionally vulnerable. Once the transfer is complete, funds will be wired to your offshore account. You're free to start fresh with O in Seattle. Oh, I didn't need to guess. Olivia. My hands went still on the keyboard. Seattle. Start fresh. With her. I leaned back slowly in the chair, the room suddenly too quiet again, the air too heavy. They weren't just planning to leave me. They were planning a future together, a future built on everything they were taking from me, my restaurant, my life, my family. And for the first time since that moment behind the glass in my office, I felt something shift completely inside me. Not confusion, not heartbreak. Clarity. Cold. Precise. Unforgiving clarity. Because this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was a setup. And I had just stepped into the middle of it. I didn't panic. That was the first thing that changed. A few hours earlier, I would have been on the floor crying, calling someone, demanding answers, begging for an explanation that didn't exist. But now I was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that settles in when your mind finally accepts that everything you thought was real wasn't. I leaned forward again, eyes scanning the screen with a different kind of focus. If Daniel had planned this much, then there was more. There had to be. I clicked into his browser history. The list loaded instantly, and that's when my stomach dropped. Search after search. How to induce nausea without detection. Power of attorney requirements, Oregon. Can a contract be invalid if signed under stress? I stopped scrolling. My breath slowed. My mind didn't. Weak enough. The words echoed again, but this time they didn't feel abstract anymore. They connected. Clean. Direct. I had been sick. For months. The nausea. The exhaustion. The cramps that came out of nowhere in the middle of a lunch rush, forcing me to step away from the kitchen, gripping the counter just to stay upright. I had blamed stress. Long hours. Burnout. Doctors had run tests. They found nothing. Probably anxiety, they said. I believed them. Because I trusted my life. Because I trusted him. My throat tightened. No, this couldn't be. A sharp wave hit my stomach, sudden and violent, cutting off the thought before it could finish. I pushed back from the desk too fast, the chair scraping loudly against the floor as I stumbled toward the hallway. I barely made it to the bathroom. By the time I dropped to my knees, I was already throwing up. It burned. Bitter. Empty. My body folding in on itself as if it was trying to purge something deeper than just whatever was in my stomach. I gripped the edge of the sink, breathing hard, waiting for it to stop. When it did, the silence came back. Heavy. I wiped my mouth slowly, my hands shaking again, but not from fear, from realization. I lifted my head. That's when I saw it. On the counter. Daniel's travel bag. Unzipped. I don't know why my eyes went to it. Maybe instinct. Maybe something in me already knew before I even moved. I reached for it slowly, like whatever was inside might bite back. The zipper slid open the rest of the way with a soft sound that felt too loud in the quiet room. Inside, everything looked normal. Toothbrush, razor, deodorant. Then I saw the bottle. Small. Brown. Tucked into the corner like it didn't matter. My fingers hesitated just for a second before picking it up. The label faced me. Ipecac syrup. for inducing vomiting in cases of poisoning. My vision blurred for a moment, like my brain refused to process what my eyes were reading. Half empty, I stared at it. Then I stared at it again and again. My reflection in the mirror looked back at me, pale, hollow, something unrecognizable staring out from my own face. The timeline clicked into place. November. That's when it started. Every morning, Daniel made the coffee. Every morning, he handed it to me with that same smile. Every morning, I drank it. And every morning, I got a little sicker. Not enough to die. Just enough to weaken me. Just enough to break me down slowly. Make sure she's weak enough. I tightened my grip around the bottle until my knuckles turned white. He had been poisoning me, not once, not twice, every single day for months. My stomach twisted again, but this time I didn't run. I stood there, holding that bottle, letting the truth settle in fully. Daniel didn't just want to leave me. He didn't just want my restaurant. He wanted me helpless, desperate, too weak to fight back when he took everything. And Olivia, she knew. She had to know. The thought hit harder than anything else. Not just betrayal, participation. I set the bottle down carefully on the counter, my movements slow, controlled, because something inside me had shifted again. The shaking stopped. The confusion was gone. Even the pain dulled. What replaced it was something colder, something sharper. I walked back down the hallway into his office, sat in his chair again, and opened the laptop. This time, I wasn't searching for answers. I was collecting evidence. Every email, every message, every file. I took pictures, screenshots, copies. My hands moved steadily now, methodically, like I had been doing this my whole life, because I understood something now. Daniel thought he was in control. He thought I was weak. He thought I had no idea what was happening. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen, the glow reflecting in my eyes, and for the first time since everything started falling apart, I smiled. Because now I knew the truth. And the truth was the one thing he never planned for. I wasn't going to confront him. I wasn't going to warn him. I was going to let him keep thinking he was winning, right up until the moment everything collapsed. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed beside Daniel, staring at the ceiling, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing like it belonged to a stranger. Every inhale, every exhale felt wrong now, calculated, like even his sleep was part of the lie. At some point after midnight, he shifted closer, his arm brushing lightly against mine. I almost flinched. Almost. But I didn't move. I forced my breathing to stay slow, steady, even. I had spent hours replaying Laura's words in my head. Don't let him know. So I didn't. When the alarm went off at 6:30 in the morning, I sat up slowly, like nothing had changed, like my world hadn't been torn open the day before. Daniel was already awake. Of course he was. He always woke up first. I found him in the kitchen, standing at the counter in gray sweatpants and a t-shirt, the coffee maker humming softly. The smell hit me instantly. Strong, bitter, familiar. I felt my stomach tighten. "Morning, Em," he said, glancing over his shoulder with that same easy smile, the same one that used to make me feel safe. Now it made my skin crawl. "Morning," I replied, my voice steady. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed loosely, watching him. Watching everything. He reached for 2 mugs, the ones we bought at that little farmer's market up in Hood River, the ones with the painted strawberries that had chipped over time. Details. Normal details. That's what made it worse. He poured the coffee carefully, steam rising between us. Then he turned toward the fridge, pulling out the almond milk I always used. Routine, predictable, perfect. And then it happened. His hand slipped into his pocket. Just for a second. Just long enough. He pulled out the bottle. The same small brown bottle I had held in my hands the day before. My pulse spiked, but I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't react. I just watched. He unscrewed the cap with one hand, tilting it over my mug like it was nothing. A few drops, clear, invisible, disappearing into the dark coffee without a trace. 5 seconds. That's all it took. 5 seconds to poison me. 5 seconds to destroy me. He screwed the cap back on, slipped the bottle into his pocket, and reached for the almond milk again, like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just committed a crime right in front of me. He stirred both mugs, the spoon clinking softly against the ceramic, then turned and walked toward me. "Here you go, babe," he said, holding out my cup. "Extra almond milk, just how you like it." I took it. Our fingers brushed. I felt nothing. "Thanks," I said. I lifted the mug to my lips, letting the steam hit my face, letting the smell fill my senses. And underneath the coffee, there it was, faint, sharp, wrong. I let the liquid touch my lips, barely. Then lowered the mug. "Perfect," I said. He smiled. Of course he did. He leaned back against the counter, sipping his own coffee, scrolling through his phone like this was just another ordinary morning, like he hadn't been poisoning me for months. "You okay?" he asked after a moment, glancing up at me. "You look tired." Fake concern. I almost admired it. "I'm fine," I said. "Just didn't sleep great." He nodded, setting his mug down, stepping closer. His hand reached up, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch made my stomach turn. "Maybe you should take today off," he said softly. "Let the staff handle the restaurant. You need rest. So I'd be weaker, so I'd be easier to control." "Maybe," I replied, forcing a small smile. "I'll think about it." He kissed my forehead. "I love you, Emma." The words landed hollow. "Love you too," I said. The lie tasted almost as bitter as the coffee. He grabbed his keys a few minutes later, heading toward the door. "I've got an early meeting," he said. "I'll see you tonight." "Okay." The door closed behind him. I stood there for a moment, completely still, listening to the sound of his car pulling out of the driveway. Then I moved. Fast. I grabbed a glass jar from the cabinet, unscrewed the lid, and poured the coffee inside. Every last drop. My hands were steady now, precise, controlled. I sealed the jar tightly, wiped the outside clean, and slipped it into my bag. Evidence. That's what it was now. Not just suspicion, not just fear. Proof. I turned back to the sink, dumping the rest of his coffee, rinsing both mugs, placing them carefully in the dishwasher. Then I gripped the edge of the counter, my breath finally catching up with me. 3 months. He had been doing this for 3 months, and I had trusted him. I straightened slowly, grabbing my phone. Medical lab, toxicology test, legal proof. If Daniel thought I was weak, he had no idea what I was about to become. I sat in my car outside the medical lab for almost 5 minutes before I could force myself to open the door. The glass jar sat in my purse, heavier than it should have been, like it carried more than just coffee inside it, like it carried the truth I wasn't ready to hear out loud, but I needed to hear it. Because once it was real, everything would change. I stepped out into the cold air, the kind that bites just enough to wake you up, and walked toward the building. The automatic door slid open with a soft hiss, and I was hit with that sterile smell of antiseptic and something floral trying too hard to cover it. A receptionist looked up from behind the counter, her smile polite, practiced. "Good morning. How can I help you?" I tightened my grip on my purse. "I need a toxicology test," I said, "on a beverage sample." Her smile faltered just slightly, just enough for me to notice. "1 moment, please." She picked up the phone, spoke quietly, then nodded and looked back at me. "Have a seat. Dr. Collins will be with you shortly." I sat down in a plastic chair by the window, my purse resting in my lap, my hands wrapped around it like I was holding something fragile. Around me, people waited quietly. A man flipping through a magazine, a woman scrolling on her phone, a mother trying to calm a restless toddler. Normal people. Normal lives. I wondered if any of them were here because someone they loved was trying to destroy them. Probably not. Emma Carter? I looked up. A woman in her early 40s stood in the doorway, white coat, calm eyes behind thin glasses. That's me. I'm Dr. Rachel Collins, she said, offering her hand. Come on back. Her grip was firm, grounded. It steadied me more than I expected. I followed her down a narrow hallway into a small exam room. She closed the door behind us, then sat across from me. So, she said gently, folding her hands, tell me what you're concerned about. I reached into my purse and pulled out the jar, setting it on the desk between us. I need to know if there's anything in this, I said. Anything that shouldn't be. She picked it up, holding it to the light, studying the dark liquid inside. And where did this come from? I hesitated. Then I said it. My husband made it for me. Her eyes flicked up to mine, just for a second, but I saw it. The shift, the understanding. And you're concerned because I've been sick, I said, the words coming faster now, for months. Nausea, vomiting, exhaustion. Doctors couldn't find anything. But yesterday I didn't drink what he made me, and today I feel fine. The room went quiet. Dr. Collins set the jar down carefully. Emma, she said softly, do you feel safe at home? The question hung there, heavy, final. I swallowed. Not anymore. She nodded slowly, her expression tightening just a fraction. Okay, she said, we can run a full toxicology panel. It will screen for poisons, medications, chemical agents, anything out of place. How long? 72 hours, 3 days. It felt like a lifetime. And the results, will they hold up legally? I asked. Her gaze sharpened slightly. If you're planning legal action, yes. Our lab is certified. The results are admissible in court. Good. I nodded. Do it. Do. She hesitated for just a moment, then added, if someone is intentionally harming you, Emma, this is serious. You should consider contacting the police. I shook my head immediately. Not yet. She studied me, weighing something, then gave a small nod. All right. But if anything changes, if you feel unsafe, you call for help immediately. Do you understand? I do. She processed the payment without asking questions, handed me a receipt, and stood. We'll call you as soon as we have results. I took the paper, slipping it into my purse. Thank you. She walked me back to the front, her hand resting briefly on my shoulder. Take care of yourself, she said quietly. I stepped outside again, the cold air hitting my face, sharper now, clearer. I sat in my car, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead. 72 hours. 3 days until I knew for sure. But deep down, I already knew. I started the engine, pulling out of the parking lot, my mind racing faster than the car. Because this wasn't just about proving what Daniel had done. This was about what I was going to do next. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the answer. The call came 3 days later while I was standing in the kitchen at the restaurant, knife in hand, halfway through slicing onions for the dinner rush. My phone buzzed in my apron pocket. Unknown number. My heart dropped before I even answered. Emma Carter? A calm voice said the second I picked up. Yes, this is Dr. Collins from Providence Medical Lab. I have your results. I need you to come in as soon as possible. My fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. Did you find something? There was a pause. Yes. That was all she said. But it was enough. I told my staff I needed to step out, grab my keys, and was in my car before my mind could catch up with my body. The drive felt endless, every red light dragging, every second stretching too thin. By the time I walked back into that same exam room, my pulse was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Dr. Collins was already there. The folder sat on the desk between us, thick, official, final. She gestured for me to sit. I did. My hands rested in my lap, but I could feel the tension in every muscle, like my body already knew what my ears were about to hear. She opened the folder slowly, then turned it toward me. "Emma," she said gently, "the results came back this morning." I looked down. The page was filled with technical language, chemical names, numbers that meant nothing at first glance. Then I saw it, highlighted. Ipecac syrup detected. 15 milliliters per standard serving. My vision blurred for a second. "Ipecac," I whispered. "That's correct," she said. "It's used to induce vomiting. At that concentration taken repeatedly, it would cause chronic nausea, dehydration, weakness, abdominal pain. Every symptom, every single one." "For how long?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "If administered daily over several months," she hesitated slightly, choosing her words carefully. "It could have serious cumulative effects. Long-term damage, potentially life-threatening complications." I stared at the paper. 3 months, 90 days, every morning. "Someone has been poisoning you," she said quietly. There it was, out loud, real. I gripped the edge of the desk, forcing myself to stay present, to not let the room spin. "November," I murmured. "That's when it started." She nodded. "Based on what you've told me, that timeline fits." I let out a slow breath, but it didn't release anything. If anything, it made everything sharper, clearer. "Emma," she leaned forward slightly, her voice firm now, "you need to go to the police. This is not just abuse, this is criminal, potentially attempted murder." I shook my head. "Not yet." Her expression hardened just a little. "Why not?" "Because this," I said, tapping the report, "proves what was in the coffee. It doesn't prove he put it there." She opened her mouth, then paused. I continued. "He's careful, calculated. If I go to the police now, he'll deny everything. Say I'm paranoid. Say I did it to myself. He has money, lawyers, connections." I looked up at her. "I need more evidence, more proof, something undeniable." She studied me for a long moment, then leaned back slowly. "You're putting yourself at risk," she said. "I know. And if he suspects anything, he won't," I cut in quietly, "because he thinks I'm still weak. That was the mistake he made, the one I was going to use." She sighed, but nodded. "All right. But if anything changes, if you feel unsafe, I'll call." She handed me the report along with her card. I took both, slipping them carefully into my bag. Evidence, proof, weapon. I stood, my legs steady now, not shaking, not uncertain, different. As I walked out of the clinic, the air felt colder, sharper against my skin. But inside, I felt something else. Not fear, not anymore. Daniel thought he was slowly breaking me, wearing me down, making me easier to control. But what he didn't realize was that every drop he put in that coffee had been building something inside me, something he couldn't predict, something he couldn't stop. I got into my car, placing the lab report on the passenger seat beside me. I glanced at it once more. Ipecac syrup detected. Then I looked up, hands gripping the wheel, because now I didn't just have suspicion, I had truth, and truth was where everything started to change. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I parked 2 blocks away from the house and sat there, engine off, watching the quiet street like it might give me answers I didn't already have. The lab report rested on the passenger seat beside me. Proof. Cold. Clinical. Undeniable. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. Laura's voice echoed in my head again, calm and certain. "You need to catch him in the act." I exhaled slowly, leaning back against the seat. If I was going to take Daniel down, I needed more than documents. I needed him, his actions, his words, his truth, captured in a way he couldn't twist. That night, after he fell asleep, I moved quietly through the house, every step measured, every sound controlled. I had already ordered the cameras earlier that day. Overnight shipping, small, discreet, the kind designed to disappear in plain sight. One of them was already in my pocket. I slipped into his office first. The door creaked slightly and I froze, listening. Nothing. Just silence. I moved inside, closing it gently behind me. The photo on his desk caught my eye for a second. Our wedding day. Me smiling like I believed in forever. Him looking at me like I was everything. I almost laughed. Instead, I picked it up, carefully. I turned it just enough to access the back panel, sliding it open with slow, practiced movements. The camera fit perfectly inside, lens angled toward the desk, toward the chair, toward everything he thought was private. I sealed the frame again, placing it exactly where it had been. No trace, no sign. I stepped back, scanning the room. Clean, perfect. Then I moved to the kitchen. That was where it mattered most, where he made the coffee, where he poisoned me. I found another spot near the cabinet, tucking the second camera behind a small decorative jar I never used. It faced the counter, the mugs, the exact place where his hand slipped into his pocket every morning. I checked the app on my phone, both cameras connected, recording, uploading to a private cloud account he would never think to look for. My pulse steadied. Good. Very good. The next morning, I followed the same routine. Same clothes, same tone, same smile. I leaned against the doorway again, arms crossed loosely, watching him like I had the day before. And again, it happened. The same movement, the same bottle, the same 5 seconds. Only this time, I had it. Every angle, every detail, recorded. I felt something settle inside me as I watched it happen. Not shock, not anger, confirmation. Later that afternoon, I sat on the edge of the bed, laptop open, headphones in, watching the footage replay on the screen. Daniel's voice drifted in from another recording, a phone call. I turned up the volume. "I need you to do a job for me," he said, his tone calm, casual. My body went still. A man's voice responded on the other end, muffled but clear enough. "What kind of job?" "A gas line inspection," Daniel said smoothly, "at a restaurant, Rosewood Kitchen." My heart stopped. That was my restaurant. My entire world narrowed to the sound of his voice. "But I need something specific," he continued. "I need you to loosen a valve. Not enough to be obvious, just enough for a slow leak." Silence. Then, "You serious?" "Dead serious." My fingers tightened on the edge of the laptop. "If there's a leak and someone's inside, that's the point," Daniel cut in. My breath caught. Cold, sharp, final. "I'll make sure she's there alone," he said. "It'll look like an accident." The words echoed in my ears. Accident! She won't walk out. I ripped the headphones off, my heart slamming against my ribs. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. This wasn't about money anymore. This wasn't about betrayal. He wasn't just trying to ruin me. He was planning to kill me. I stared at the screen, at his face frozen mid-sentence, calm and composed like he was discussing a business deal. My husband, the man I had trusted with everything, was planning my death. I closed the laptop slowly, my hands steady again, because something inside me had crossed a line I couldn't come back from. There was no hesitation left, no doubt, no fear. I reached for my phone, opening Laura's contact. My fingers hovered for just a second. Then I typed, "I have everything." I hit send, and for the first time since this all began, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was ready. We didn't call the police that night. That was the part most people wouldn't understand. Laura sat across from me the next morning, a cup of untouched coffee between her hands. her expression steady in that way that made you feel like she was already 5 steps ahead of everything you were about to say. "You have enough to scare him," she said quietly, "not enough to bury him." I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, exhaustion pulling at every part of me, but underneath it, something sharper kept me upright. "I have him on camera poisoning me," I said. "I have audio of him planning a gas leak." She nodded. "And a good lawyer will say it's out of context, that it was a joke, that you misunderstood, that the substance could have come from anywhere." I hated that she was right. I hated how clean Daniel had been, careful, strategic. "He thinks he has time," Laura continued. "That's your advantage." I stared at her. "So what do we do?" She leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. "We let him keep going." The words settled between us, heavy. "We build a case so tight there's no room for doubt," she said. "We catch him in the act. We make sure when he falls he doesn't get back up." I swallowed. "How?" Her eyes met mine. "We set a trap." The plan took shape slowly over the next few days. Every detail mattered. Every move had to be precise. We worked with law enforcement quietly, carefully. Not enough to tip Daniel off, but enough to make sure when the time came, they would be there, watching, waiting. I went back to my routine. Same mornings, same coffee, same performance. I played the part perfectly. Weak, tired, unaware. Daniel believed it. That was the terrifying part. He never questioned it. Not once. Which meant he was already too far gone. The date he mentioned in the recording stayed, burned into my mind. October 28th. 8 months away. 8 months. He thought he had to finish everything. We didn't give him that long. Instead, we watched. Collected. Built. The man he contacted? They found him, interviewed him quietly. He talked. Not everything, but enough. Enough to confirm Daniel had made the offer. Enough to prove intent. I kept recording, every morning, every drop, every lie. And Olivia, I watched her too. From a distance, from reports, from pictures, meeting him in hotels, holding his hand like she believed in him, like she believed in whatever future he had promised her. It made something twist inside me, not just anger, something more complicated. Because the deeper we dug, the clearer it became. She didn't know everything. She knew about me. She knew about the affair, but the rest? The poisoning, the plan, the gas line. That wasn't her idea. She was part of it, but she wasn't in control. Daniel was. Always had been. That didn't excuse her, but it changed something. Slightly, not enough to forgive, just enough to understand. Weeks passed, then months, and with every piece of evidence we gathered, I felt myself change. The fear faded, the hurt hardened, and what replaced it was focus, cold, precise, unshakable, until finally the day came. Not the one he planned, the one we chose. The restaurant was full that night, every table occupied, every light on, every detail exactly how he would expect it. I stood in the kitchen, hands steady, phone in my pocket, watching the door, waiting, because I knew he would come. And this time, he wouldn't be the one in control. The moment the door opened and Daniel stepped inside, smiling like nothing in the world could touch him, I felt it. That final shift. Everything I had endured, everything I had uncovered, everything I had become. It all led to this. And for the first time, I didn't see my husband. I saw a man walking straight into his own ending. I set the cup of coffee down in front of him and watched his eyes flick to it for just a fraction of a second. Recognition, habit, control. All yours, I said lightly, like it was just another night, just another routine he had perfected. He smiled, reaching for it without hesitation. "You spoil me," he said, lifting the cup, the steam rising between us. I didn't sit. Not yet. Instead, I stepped back, my hand slipping into my pocket, fingers brushing against my phone, feeling the edge of the app that now controlled everything he thought he understood. "Before we eat," I said, my voice calm but carrying just enough to cut through the room, "I want to share something." The conversations around us softened, then stilled. Daniel's smile faltered, just slightly. "What's this?" he asked, a hint of unease creeping into his tone. I didn't answer him. I turned instead, pressing a button on my phone. Behind him, the projector lit up. The first image filled the wall, a lab report, clear, sharp, ipecac syrup detected. For a moment, no one spoke. Daniel's hand tightened around the cup. "This isn't funny, Emma," he said, his voice low now, warning. "I agree," I replied. I tapped the screen again. The footage played. Him, standing in the kitchen, reaching into his pocket, tilting the bottle. Drop by drop, silence spread across the room like something alive, heavy, unavoidable. "That's not," he started, but the words died in his throat as the video looped again, and again, and again. "You've been poisoning me," I said, not loudly but clearly enough that every single person in that room heard it. His chair scraped against the floor as he stood up. "Emma, stop," he snapped, his composure cracking. "You don't know what you're talking about." I stepped closer. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Another tap. The audio played, his voice, cold, measured. "I need you to loosen the valve, just enough for a slow leak." A murmur rippled through the room. Someone gasped. Daniel froze. "That's taken out of context," he said quickly, too quickly. "That's not what it sounds like." I held his gaze. "No," I said quietly, "it's exactly what it sounds like." The doors opened behind him. He didn't hear it. Not at first. He was too focused on me, too focused on trying to regain control. "Emma, you're making a mistake," he said, stepping toward me. "We can fix this." "No," I replied. I shook my head slowly. "You made the mistake." Hands closed around his arms from behind, firm, unyielding. He turned sharply, confusion flashing into something closer to panic as two officers stepped into view. "Daniel Carter," one of them said, voice steady, practiced. "You're under arrest for attempted murder, aggravated assault, and conspiracy to commit fraud." The room held its breath. For a second, he just stood there. Then he laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "This is insane," he said. "You're really doing this?" I met his eyes, for the last time. "I'm not doing anything," I said softly. "I just stopped letting you do it to me." The handcuffs clicked into place. That sound, it stayed with me. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. As they led him toward the door, his confidence crumbled, piece by piece, until all that was left was a man who had run out of moves. The door closed behind him, and just like that, the silence broke. People started talking, whispering, reacting. But I didn't hear any of it. I just stood there breathing, feeling the weight lift, not all at once, but enough. Enough to know I had made it through. Enough to know I had chosen something different. Not revenge, not chaos, justice. Weeks later, I stood alone in the kitchen early one morning, sunlight filtering through the windows, the air quiet and clean. No lies, no fear, just me. I poured myself a cup of coffee, plain, untouched, safe. And for the first time in a long time, I drank it without hesitation. Some things don't heal overnight. Some scars don't fade completely. But you learn. You rebuild. You become someone who sees the signs, who trusts the instinct, who doesn't ignore the quiet voice that says something isn't right. If this story stayed with you, if you've ever had to choose strength over silence, take a moment, hit like, subscribe, and comment 3 words. I choose me.